What happens when the world building of Skyrim, the humor of Borderlands, and the dark grittiness of Elden Ring have a deformed test tube baby? You know, like those dogs that are so ugly you just can't help but love them? No, not that one. That's my dog. She's just an attention hog. Ignore her. Today, we're taking a look at Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. Close your eyes and imagine a simpler time. The year was 2011, Google Plus had just begun its short life, Harry Potter was finally over, and everyone was calling each other bae. We all had first world problems, and Bruno Mars reminded us we were amazing just the way we are. But more importantly than all of that, the gaming industry, which was dominated by Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, Dark Souls, Minecraft, and Skyrim. So yeah, not much has really changed. Skyrim was a game that reminded us we could all be adventurers, at least until we took an arrow to the knee, or someone put a bucket on our heads. It was a game that captivated, infuriated, and intoxicated us. We followed NPCs for weeks as they went about their daily lives, posted countless bug compilations, and killed a whole lot of dragons. Tainted Grail recaptures that magic. I am the Chief Peasant, let's boot it up. Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon feels both fresh and familiar. It's like the Mandela effect and deja vu all rolled into one, with cheese-wielding wizard chefs, magic pot farms, and a shroom trip I'll never quite forget. I'm taking you on a journey of intrigue, betrayal, way too many murdered NPCs, and a whole lot of cooking. But let's be real, it's a janky, lovable mess. And I'm here for all of it. Sometimes enemies ragdoll 50 feet, sometimes you ragdoll 50 feet, and most of the time, your horse ragdolls 50 feet. What I'm trying to say here is there's a whole lot of ragdolling. But it's not all bad. The devs are aware of the jankiness, and even lean into it on several quests. But in the immortal words of Riversong, spoilers. We all remember our first giant chicken, backwards flying dragon, or spinning head in Mass Effect. In a lot of ways, those bugs and glitches are what makes those games so good. It's what we remember. I remember enough of those late nights, hopped up on way too much Mountain Dew, sharing tales and making memories with close friends, and staying up way too late. The three pillars of a good RPG are social interaction, exploration, and combat. We're going to start with exploration. In Tainted Grail, 1 minute you're cresting the rise and wondering why that cave looks like the gaping maw of Phil Spencer. Yeah, it happens really often. And the next, you're following that merchant who sold you that defective bow. You know who you are, so you can shank them in their sleep. What Skyrim did well is it perfectly captured the feeling of existence. It allows you to stop being the player and become the character. I was that Khajiit that nobody liked because he was definitely stealing their stuff. Tainted Grail makes me feel like a member of this hopeless and bleak society. I am the diseased peasant or the hopeless vagabond begging under the bridge. Immersion at its best. Many games have tried to get exploration right, but only a select few have really perfected that. I just need to see what's over that next hill vibe. Sadly, far more have failed. I'm looking at you, every Ubisoft game from the last decade. Tainted Grail can count itself among the former pedigree. It's at its best when you aren't partaking in its story, but rather writing your own. The world feels incredibly full with actual stuff. We're looking at you again, Ubisoft. Each zone has this really big choice you need to make that has weight on how the story eventually plays out. It really has the sauce to make it an instant cult classic. The game takes place over 3 unique open world maps, and some of its dungeons could be called full zones in their own right. At one point I got lost in one for 2 hours, and it's a fairly long game too. This took me just under 50 hours to beat, and I promise about 85% of that was not me getting lost. And I didn't even really scratch the surface of all the random shenanigans you could get into in this world. We've already touched on the world now, and it's great. I really have no complaints with their world building, storytelling, aesthetic, any of that. So the real question is, how is the story? The storytelling's at its best when you discover a sock-stealing witch, a druid who offers you shrooms, book of a scandalous nature, don't ask me why I bought all of them, weird self-mutilating priests, cursed T-posing NPCs, forgetful ghosts, plague doctors, heart-stealing fae, barrel men, ancient gods, sunken kingdoms, child-losing midwives, and so much more. I swear I did not even touch the surface, and every single one of those is a side quest of some kind. The NPC writing is a masterclass in macabre humor. And it works so well. Don't get me wrong, the main story's great, and really fun to explore, and even has some fun choices and moments to experience, but the side quests are where it really shines. Each character has a personality that is all their own, and some of these stories intertwine together to create their own mini-adventures within the game. Think Baldur's Gate from 2023. The world really felt alive, but there are a few instances in the bigger cities where certain NPCs couldn't be interacted with at all or had no lines, and I get it, this is an indie studio, and oh my god, what they accomplished with what they had is insane. However, I would have liked to have seen at least a line or two here to make this feel more alive and not just blank canvases that I couldn't even interact with. The storytelling's at its best when you discover a sock-stealing witch, a druid who offers you shrooms, book of a scandalous nature, don't ask me why I bought all of them, weird self-mutilating priests, cursed T-posing NPCs, forgetful ghosts, plague doctors, heart-stealing fae, barrel men, ancient gods, sunken kingdoms, child-losing midwives, and so much more. I swear I did not even touch the surface, and every single one of those is a side quest of some kind. The NPC writing is a masterclass in macabre humor, and it works so well. Don't get me wrong, the main story's great, and really fun to explore, and even has some fun choices and moments to experience, but the side quests are where it really shines. Each character has a personality that is all their own, and some of these stories intertwine together to create their own mini-adventures within the game. Think Baldur's Gate from 2023. The world really felt alive, but there are a few instances in the bigger cities where certain NPCs couldn't be interacted with at all or had no lines, and I get it, this is an indie studio, and oh my god, what they accomplished with what they had is insane. However, I would have liked to have seen at least a line or two here to make this feel more alive and not just blank canvases that I couldn't even interact with. So how's the main story? Well, the gist is this. King Arthur brought his entire country to Avalon. They were fleeing this sickness called the Red Death that turns you into this bleeding pile of bones like something out of a D-list horror flick. Through some pretty sus behavior on the part of a very cleverly placed piece of plot armor, that guy, this creepy edgelord helps you escape prison, even though you have a pretty nasty case of the Red Death, and look like a walking meat smoothie that someone forgot to put a lid on. He doesn't seem to care much about your condition, but after some more sus direction from Mr. Edgelord, you find yourself with King Arthur stuck in your head, like a tutorial prompt that just won't go away. And off you go to save, destroy, or loot the kingdom. I preferred the loot option. So we've talked a lot about exploration, and we've talked about the story. But unfortunately now we gotta talk about the area that I've been dreading. The area where the game struggles the most is in its combat and its balance. The combat in Tainted Grail is simple, almost too simple. It has a weak dodge and parry system that feels very dated, failing to continue that nostalgia train that the other aspects achieve, and instead reminds us of the worst parts of that era in gaming. There's also a lot of pretty standard cookie-cutter weapon attacks, a lackluster combat system combined with stuttery, janky enemy movement. It made me much less interested and even caused me to lower the game's fairly meaty difficulty setting to better get through this pain point. Each new zone you come to has a large difficulty jump, and it feels a bit jolting, kind of like how Avowed had its damage reduction and increasement numbers with gear ratings and zones, and it made it feel less open and more level-gated. It's not all bad though. The magic system's really fun, and it has some really cool and unique spells. But unfortunately, with magic being part of your loadout, it feels kinda janky to change spells in combat, and it lacks the favorite system that Skyrim had, which complicates it even more. But for me, I can get past all this. The joy of the next chest of loot, or the next hidden quest to get lost in, is way more interesting than the combat. So how does it perform? Well, about like you would expect. It performs about the way a rowboat would in a speedboat competition. Screen tearing and frame dips are pretty common. However, in a surprising twist, I only experienced one game crashing bug in my entire 60 some odd hours with it. We already touched on the jank, so I won't go further into it. I could have done without the useless pile of crap that they call your horse. That guy right there, definitely destined for the Avalon equivalent of a glue factory. He was so useless, you can run almost as fast as him, and he gets stuck on literally every object. See, if you haven't figured it out yet, I really love this game. I really do. It takes the kind of chances that only an indie game can, and it made me feel the way I haven't felt about a game in a while. It has the magic formula to make it great. And above all, it's fun. And that's really all it needs to be. Is it perfect? No. But if anything, that's what makes it so good. It knows what it is, and it lets you sit with that knowledge. The whole game. It's a game painfully aware of its limitations, and it works the most beautiful magic with those limitations. From its story, to its scenery, its characters, to its creatures. It is what it is, and that's beautiful in its own way. Do I recommend this game? You bet your TARDIS I do, and I would fight any Ferengi that disagrees. Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon is a great game. If you like this kind of content and want to see more, you know what to do. I'm the Chief Peasant, this is Majestic Peasant Studios, and we're signing off.